Good evening and welcome to another night of Stars, Stripes, and Anfield Nights. We apologize for not being on last week, although it was not any American or Australian's fault last week. It was the Irishman of the channel, Stephen Garrett. If you see him, let him know he clocked out early on us last week and did not give us the link. So apologies for not being here last week, but more to catch up on this week. Tonight we have Colin, Rigo, and CT joining us. Colin, last second, grabbing his Liverpool hat for getting smoked for not wearing Liverpool gear, consecutive appearances with Rigo. I have my laundry in the background, as you can see. I didn't have time to get that away. There's Liverpool gear in there that needs washing because I'm always wearing Liverpool gear. Colin only grabbing it last second. How you doing tonight, Colin?
Yeah, I made the unfortunate mistake of like when I was, in my early 20s, to buy, to procure most of my like nice vintage Liverpool gear. So it fits a nice young 23-year-old Colin. It does not fit a 29-year-old Colin so well. So yeah, not less Liverpool gear sitting around as there used to be, if it actually needs to fit. Lots of good, it looks good. It looks nice on that hanger, but it does not get taken off very often.
That's fair and an admirable excuse. You'll never walk alone, though, is the words of the heart, and we know you wear them proudly. So I'll stop giving you grief there. But Rigo, haven't seen you in a little while. I know you got dad duty and family duty, so definitely appreciate you back on the stream. How you doing tonight, my friend?
Doing well, doing well. Definitely happy to be back on. I had to get on Colin, because when I do make an appearance, I definitely want all of us to be embodying the spirit of Liverpool Football Club. So at least have some semblance of gear on. But it's great to have you guys on. It's fun ribbing Colin, of course, but I'm glad to be back on, doing well.
That's good to hear, Rigo. And CT, wrapping it up with you. Down in Australia, everyone else here is heating up, trying to not sweat. You're trying to stay warm. How are you doing down there?
I'm trying to stay warm, like you said, and sharing the opposite weather right now. It's winter, but I appreciate you guys adopting this Aussie for the Star Stripes and Anfield Nights, and it's all about Liverpool, and we never walk alone.
100%. Paul, good to see you in the chat. That was a great comment. Canada did better than England today. It was my day off today, so I was able to catch the Netherlands game. Saw them lose to Austria, and then England. Very, very boring 0-0 draw. Not the way I like to spend my day off, but it's been good to have the soccer in the summer. I'm gonna say soccer, Star Stripes, Anfield Nights, but football definitely won in England. But how are you guys? I'll start this off with you, Riga. Have you been able to catch any of the Euro games or Copa America games?
The very fortunate thing of being here on East Coast time is that when the Euros kicked off, first matches were at 9 a.m., then 12, then 3. And then when Copa joined in, it was 9, 12, 3, 6, 9. So it's been quite a fun summer so far. Definitely loving all the both tournaments ongoing right now. On the personal level, rooting for Spain in the Euros, in the Copa America, rooting for Ecuador, as well as Colombia and Peru. Damn it, Paul, your Canadians beat Peru today. But yeah, loving all the matches. Definitely trying to catch as much as I can, obviously, from our boys that are involved. Dominic and Andy getting the boot, unfortunately. But Virgil, as well as Trent, obviously advancing. Lucho doing well with Colombia. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to see how these tournaments play out and enjoying the footy while we wait for preseason to kick off and transfer season to get fully going. Obviously, these tournaments are kind of throwing a monkey wrench into any business going on, but definitely enjoy. Hope everyone is as well on the chat and on the stream.
Definitely, yeah. I'm catching highlights for the most part. It's smack dab in the middle of my day, but I'm excited to see the Liverpool players who are getting time. Seems like our lads are doing well. Colin, have you been able to catch any of the games so far?
Yeah, I've pretty much had all of the games on. I can't say that I've been an active watcher in all of them, but just like on in the background, during work, and one of the great perks of being able to work from this desk here at home is my big TVs just set up over there on the wall, and I get to throw on whatever and peek over when I get a chance. So yeah, the Euro games especially have been incredible. Save for England's group, which no surprise there. But the rest of the games, that Italy game was unbelievable drama. I think that was just yesterday. It was really, really unbelievable stuff. And other games as well, like just even the games that don't necessarily, if you just look at the score lines, look very interesting, have been unbelievable games. So been very enjoyable. I actually was kind of hoping some of our Liverpool lads would go out of the tournaments early. So like getting to send Andy Robertson and Dom Szoboszlai kind of in particularly home to vacation as quickly as possible is totally fine with me. Like, he doesn't need to be doing any sort of strenuous activity for the next month probably.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to having Andy back because he's going to be doing a ton of running next season. So giving him a little break a little bit early probably isn't the worst thing. Szoboszlai, probably similar situation. It's going to have a lot of running to do in the midfield. So no injuries, back home early. Fingers crossed. That's the way both of them start the season. But CT, I feel like America is not really doing justice for Copa America in terms of vibes. When I look at the Euro videos of all the fans, I'm not really seeing at least our home nation, except for the followers of the sport, really invested. What's it like down in Australia? Have you been able to catch the games with the time zone? And is the country hyped for the international football going on?
Yeah, definitely. I would say the first game is a good time, 11 p.m. Sort of not too late, but then the other games for the rest of the day in the Euros are while we're sleeping. But the Copa America is, the games are on right now. So middle of the day, just watched, the Canada-Peru. I saw Brazil draw yesterday, struggling there as well. But Lucho for Colombia did some nice things as well. It's great to see the passion for them, representing their countries on the world stage. Darwin having a pretty good tournament so far as well as Cody, which we'll talk about more as well. But yeah, I'm just excited because it's the next best thing, Obviously, they're not in a Liverpool shirt, but while they're still playing their football, you're rooting for their success.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to see the lads doing well, and it seems like I don't know, as long as I've been watching, it always feels like Liverpool players always tend to do well internationally when they're picked. But as you said, we'll get into the nitty gritty of the Liverpool lads out in the tournaments right now. And the first one we have in the title of the video, Gakpo leading the charge. Now, not I think it's like the own goal leading scorer in the Euros, 5 or 6 at the moment, and then it's is it Gakpo and like Musiala at two goals. I think there's someone else. Cody, how do you think Cody's been doing so far with the Netherlands, and how do you think that will affect his season going forward with Liverpool?
Cody's been doing pretty well. Obviously, he's scored 2 goals, playing in his more natural position of left wing, being able to drive in onto his right and unleash shots at goal from driving in towards the defenders. In watching Netherlands play, unfortunately, they also suffer from, I would say, outdated tactics and a manager who's very, very rigid, unfortunately, in Ronald Koeman. And the team overall has seemed to suffer as a result. Obviously, they lost today. They were still moving through within their group to the final 16, but obviously they could have ended up in first place if they had won today's matchup, losing 3-2. So he's played well. I think Netherlands on the whole hasn't played all that remarkable. They haven't been on the money, but apart from that, very happy with how he's played. Virgil has done all right as well. The unfortunate thing, though, for them, they seem to catch a lot of heat, Virgil especially in their home country with regards to the press and former Netherlands stars. So that's the unfortunate part of being captain and the face of that team. But hopefully they continue to do well. They do have a chance, I believe, of facing England. I have to take a look at the table, but that'd be quite a matchup if they end up knocking England out. I'd love that, but we'll see.
I think I was looking at that earlier, and it might be like the semifinal matchup potentially. I don't know if that still is the case with how the table ended up. Their group was pretty wild at the end there. But
Yeah.
Colin, Rigo made a great point on the pressure that the players are experiencing in the national team. It almost feels like every international team has a microscope on their players. You're seeing it with England, you're seeing it with Netherlands, and performance-wise, the criticism definitely is justified in certain cases, but it's not like there's like a whole season that you get to judge these players by. It's really just this setup, and could be a couple games like Robertson, 3 matches, and then you're going home. How do you feel, stick with the Netherlands, how do you feel Cody and Virgil have been playing? Do you think criticism on Virgil has been justified? And how do you think this carries over for the season so far?
I think Cody's definitely been one of the very brightest spots for the Netherlands. They I think there are 3 teams at the Euros right now that really I think you can group together very clearly, and they would be under the banner of like incredibly high expectations and incredibly high skill levels, but just are not performing. I think for a number of reasons, and that's the Netherlands, England, and Italy. I don't think any of these teams are playing to their potential and are not certainly not playing to what the sum of their parts certainly is. I think Cody's been one of the brightest players for them, but when watching every single game, or when watching those games for those 3 teams, I'm struck by the same thing, which is that my brother and I were just talking about this with England in particular, is that it oftentimes looks like just someone within the team trying to just make all of the magic happen, rather than the team having a like cohesive vision of like how they need to play. It looks like they give the ball to the next person, and everybody, including that person who the ball just went to, is just expected just to make the magic. And it's varying degrees of like success for those 3 teams. But I think the root problem is kind of there across all of them, which is, Enrico brought this, like, very strict is about play, and that don't have, rather these are systems that the managers are insisting that it's for the United as well. Like they're forced to play a certain way regardless for the team, and the best way to get the highest results out of each individual for the collective. So Virgil, I think he's been fine. I don't think he's really done much of anything wrong. I don't think that the midfield for the Netherlands has been good at all. They strike me as quite a mess. And then like I said, they lack all 3 of those teams lack a cohesion. And again, I think you can attribute that to probably a lot of different factors, but just something's not right with all 3 of those teams at the moment, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's I think France as well. Shashin. Excuse me if I got that wrong, but definitely I'd add that to the list as well for England, Netherlands, Italy. But totally understand where you're coming from with the coaching on that. Midfield definitely seems to be a problem with Netherlands, as you can tell by the first half substitution in today's match. That was probably one of the saddest moments whenever somebody gets pulled mid first half and it's not it's not an injury. But England's had plenty of problems with midfield. France, besides Mbappe's penalty, they haven't had another player score for them. I think it was the own goal. But Colin, how much do you think for these teams that are underperforming, and since we have Netherlands and England with featuring Liverpool players, how much do you think it's down to the players versus the manager tactics? And do you think that has a negative effect potentially carrying over from tournament if it is for poor performances?
I don't think.
Oh, sorry, CT.
I don't.
My
Yeah.
fault. My fault, Colin.
Go.
Yeah, look, I think obviously lead up preparations is huge. Most of these players are stars for their own clubs, and it takes a lot of buy-in to sort of come together as a team and play as a team cohesively. And it's always tough because it's a short period of time, and you're expected to sort of play your best football. A lot of teams do scrape through the group stages and then start to play their best football as the tournament goes along. Maybe they fine tune a few kinks. Maybe if it's England, hopefully they can sort some of the politics out and get the best 11 on there, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. I think certainly, like Rigo mentioned with the Dutch team, there's some selection situations that aren't ideal for most people's vantage point. Same with England. Politics, the way the coach likes to play, all of those things. Ultimately, the best team usually wins, in my opinion. Yes, there's pieces of individual brilliance, and that can carry you through the knockout phase. But to get through the quarters, the semis, win the final, it's generally got to be one of the best teams as a whole, or the best managed sort of team and structure and system. Whoever's clicking on all cylinders as well. And I do think that hopefully the Dutch can get further, and England as well. Trent's been made a scapegoat, despite some statistics indicating that he is very impactful in a positive way. I just think it's all been last minute for Trent. Like, they just haven't identified a role yet. Going into a tournament, you kind of already need to know who's going to be playing in which roles. Right now, it just seems to be done on the fly.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I think the whole social media slash punditry is kind of honing in a bit for England, is the fact that some of Gareth Southgate's answers around Calvin Phillips' replacement is still experimenting. It's definitely, I think it's kind of funny because I feel like pundits have always said he's very diplomatic, very like well spoken, and good communicator to the press. But I feel like some of his answers in recent interviews have shown a guy like under stress, just looking for answers. But I'll pass this to you, Rigo. I'm always a little, for me, international tournaments, it's hopefully every player, every Liverpool player goes as far as possible, with the caveat of no injuries. That's for me. No injuries, home safe, with enough time to rest and be ready for the new season. Something that I'm seeing now with the criticism on players, as we were saying, Van Dijk's getting a lot of criticism. I know he kind of was caught off on today, but I felt other than that, he's done pretty well. Trent, I can't see why the criticism's just being laid on him. Do you think this criticism has any effects for the players? Do you think this international tournaments could leave players in a worse off spot when it comes to the season starting?
Definitely. I think obviously as a player, you would want to be playing and playing well, and that obviously leads to more confidence and getting good rhythm and positive mindset leading into the season. So obviously, they're not doing well or not getting sufficient play time, may be a scapegoat in Trent's situation. I think it obviously can weigh on the player, but I do think it's once they get to preseason, get to training camp, I think that also kind of just washes away as well, because then you just start focusing on the club itself and your mates on the club and actual players that you spend the majority of your time in the footballing world with during your year. So it can have its pros and cons, obviously, as far as their momentum and their mind state heading into the season. But I don't think it'll weigh that much in a positive or a negative light, thankfully.
I can see what you mean. I feel like as professionals, they deal with this all the time. I just almost feels bad if you're going from like bad situation to bad situation or uncertainty. Definitely, that's why you just wish for the best for players. But Colin, before we switch up into more topics from the title of the video, just want to wrap up this kind of line of questioning with Arne Slot is finally in the training ground at AXA Training Center. We're waiting for a while. I don't believe he had made his debut interview last time we were on stream. How do you feel he's viewing these matches? Because if players go far in the tournaments, they might not get a lot of training time with him with the preseason leading up to the opening fixtures. How do you think he's viewing these international games?
I think he's not assuming he's going to get anybody back earlier than the longest possible time that they would be out, which I think is the correct way. I think the correct way to view it is expect them to be out the entirety of the time. And then when they come back a week or two early, or if they come back for the full amount of time, then that's a pause. Then that's, great. That's extra time you're getting. But I think from the interview, I get the impression that he is very interested in making sure that anybody who is there currently. So like, I know we saw Steph Bajcetic doing training there over the summer. I think on, pictures put on his story, as much as can be done with the players who are going to kind of start to trickle back in, the better. If you can implement certain ideas, it doesn't have to be full team tactics, just certain mindsets about, for midfielders, your mindset is going to be, X, for wingers, your mindset's going to be Y. And I want you, when you're going through these preseason trainings and lifting sessions and whatever, I want you to be thinking about being in the correct mindset. The more work you can do like that earlier, the better, for the whole team. But I don't think it does, and I'm sure that it would agree. It doesn't do anybody any help to assume that you're going to get people back early. And when, let's say, for example, when the Netherlands makes a long run, then, two of your, two mainstays of the first team then don't get back till, 2 weeks before the season starts or something like that. And then you're in a bad spot. I think that the best possible thing to do is to make as much progress as you can with the people who will be available.
Definitely. And we'll start switching this up to more specific questions on the title of the video. Just before we transition to that, just wanted to take this moment to say thank you for everyone joining the Star Stripes Anfield Night stream. Can't say it enough, but everyone here at LFC Transfer Window, the guys who do this every week, we really appreciate everyone who comes in, watches the videos, participates with the channel, interact. If you have any comments, any questions you want to ask, please throw them in the comments. We'll be happy to pull them up. And definitely appreciate you guys tuning in, especially during the Argentina game going on right now. So hope you have that on a side screen if you can. But again, appreciate everyone who's joined in tonight and watching. Now, CT, one of the big things in the big titles in the video, I guess, actually, I think Steven might not have put it up there, but Paul did ask it in the question, so I'll pull that up now. Gakpo should be ahead of Lucho for our left wing. So it's a bold statement, but one that has some, that you could argue. I think I saw earlier that on Kelleher and Diaz that I forget who said it, but that Arne Slot considers them part of his plans and would only listen to offers above 25 million for Kelleher and 50 million pounds for Luis Diaz. Do you think Gakpo is edged up in the ranking for left wing starter, and do you think Diaz is on his way out, or do you think this is just going to be another situation that Klopp had where you have a lot of people, a lot of bodies that can play left wing at a high quality?
Yeah, man, it's a great question. I think I'll say this, may the best man win. Pre-season and form counts for something. A new manager coming in, he's going to be evaluating heavily. He would have looked at most of the tape, from last season. He would have looked at, the patches that Cody went through, the patches that Lucho went through as well. Lucho is obviously playing quite well for his country. Always seems to be really active on the ball with his dribbling, and we see those viral videos of him making fools out of defenders. But I think they both have a strong case, and I think I understand what Paul's saying. I think Gakpo is the younger statesman, and Lucho is in more of the transfer rumors, and obviously is angling for a bigger payday or a move to a higher profile or a high profile club, maybe closer to his homeland. But yeah, to me, the positive I want to take from it is that Gakpo is well and truly looking like the player we bought, and if it takes playing him at the left wing, then I think that we should keep that. Don't keep messing with him and messing with moving him positions. If we happen to end up having two good left wingers, we should just deal with that. Not and deal with the double up. I think play them, rotate it. Early substitutions, if so. I think Lucho is always going to be active for his country, Gakpo as well. I think I want us to use our depth, but long term, I could really see, Lucho being the one to leave first and Cody, to be that guy to lead the left wing for many years to come. But obviously they're a little different in terms of their game. Cody's a lot more of a confidence player for me. I think when he started to get his confidence back up after the lean spell last season, we really start to see the Cody, like I said, that we hoped and expected. With Lucho, it's just all about output, like we talked about in the chat. He's always a menace on the ball and running, but it's all about output for him. If he can convert 5, 6, 7 more chances, then he's a world-class winger, and definitely we shouldn't part with him, guys, unless it's 80 mil ideally. Because think about it, if he's going to go to a big club, it's got to be a big club to leave Liverpool. I don't think he's going to leave us for Real Sociedad or something slightly lower, or it's going to be a club like Barca, PSG, someone with some cash.
I definitely agree. It's and I like your point about how they're two different styles of players, Gakpo and Diaz. Gakpo has the youth on his side, but Diaz is definitely an exciting player, and I think he hit the nail on the head. If he could add a couple more goals and assists to his stat sheet at the end of the season, it'd definitely be looking at a top prospect winger. I think that's kind of the downfall of the loss of Mane and Salah, and this rehash is that we're looking for goal scorers and we're not getting that consistency from output from that left wing position. So, Riga, how do you feel? Where do you sit on that side of the fence for Diaz versus Gakpo, and do you see Diaz potentially leaving this summer?
Yeah, that rumor keeps floating about as far as Barcelona having the most interest, and Deco, their sporting director, wanting to bring him on or being enamored with Lucho Diaz. Again, Barca has as much money in their bank account as I probably do at the moment, so I don't know how much they have unless they're able to offload. I believe Rafinha is potentially heading to the Saudi league for big money. So if that is the case, then once they reach a certain threshold, then they can spend 1-to-1. So if they get 70 million for Rafinha, they could turn around and spend that 70 million to go ahead and get Lucho, which is I would say at least the $60 million range and upwards would be the starting point. I know he's already 27, maybe 28 as far as age, but he's still right within his prime. If James wasn't with the Colombia squad, he would be the captain. James is back to the Colombia squad, so he has resumed that mantle. But Lucho has always worked his tail off effort-wise, and when he's put on our uniform, and I think Cody as well. I think Cody's biggest change, obviously, he became a father recently, and I think the new haircut, the fade combo with the beard, I think that when you get a nice cut and you have it working, I think that just leads to output and in many fields. So least of which would be football pitch. So it's not a bad position to be in. Obviously, having two talented guys who can play the left wing. We aren't even factoring Diogo Jota at the moment as well, who should be playing left wing in certain spots as well. I think that'll be decided in preseason and health permitting as well. I think there's going to be obviously a lot of rotation involved. As far as who's the nailed-on starter, obviously new manager might have different ideas, and again, let it be one on the pitch, not on the screen. But I have my favorite horse in the race, and that's Lucho Diaz.
That's fair. Definitely a lot to argue with him on that, or for him on that side as well. I like what you said about Gakpo. As CT said, he's a confidence man. It seems like he's wanting to put in performances for his newborn son. Maybe he doesn't want him growing up, seeing him stinking up the Euros, but seems to be playing well. But Lucho at the same point as the same. As you said, $60 million, that's a fair price point, especially if you think Arsenal's trying to get Nketiah off the books at 50 mil. So I think Lucho 60 million would be a fair price, but I wouldn't want to see him leaving. I think he has a lot to offer. I think his last year's output shouldn't be judged harshly, especially with everything he went through personally. This is a chance, new manager coming in, chance to have a fresh slate, and he seems to be never lacking in terms of energy and passion, which for me is one of the most important qualities for a player. Colin, do you see where we're at as a club with Slot coming in, Edwards back in the helm? Do you think this is the time where we're going to see ruthless cuts, where players who are getting toward that seller stick stage where you might not get more money for them in future years? Do you think we're going to lose a player like Luis Diaz, or do you think he's staying another year and is our starter?
It's a very interesting question. I think we're gonna find out really, really fast after these tournaments are over. I think it is going to be. I've kind of mentioned this on a couple other streams over the past couple of weeks. I think this summer is going to be a tale of two halves. I think this first part, we're going to look back on it and be like, wow, wish it was this chill the whole time. And I think the last 6 weeks are going to be many a night where whoever's around is going to be jumping on stream to talk about whoever, whatever contract was just signed or literally whatever news just happened, because it's been so quiet. It's been absolutely silent on almost every front. And this is kind of evidenced by the idea as well that they've kind of parceled out the Arna interview package and the media package with a little more time in there. No, if this was going to be I think a very full summer, in terms of like consistent things going on the whole time, they would have done that, I think, earlier, or they would have felt pressure to do it earlier. I'm leaning more towards I wonder if this is not going to be a change to the ruthless. We will not take $0 for anyone. We will get something for someone regardless. We will not let you run down your contract. We will sell you, or you will sign. My suspicion is that's the way we might be going. I think that there are pluses and minuses to that ideology. I think it probably is most beneficial to have a little bit of balance there, but I do think that there is a little bit of fat that can be trimmed in terms of like some wages that are being paid, some and wages that were kind of signed for players who should be at their very, very peak, who might not be. And I wonder if this is not something that is going to change in a hurry.
Yeah, I agree. I feel the same way about the tale of two halves for this summer transfer window. I think it's definitely going to heat up as we get closer.
It's going to be like. Go ahead.
I'm saying it just makes sense because, like, you have these players in active tournaments that Copa America, they're literally like chopping each other down, like they're in the forest just chopping down wood. And you've seen rough actions in the Euros as well. Dominic Szoboszlai's teammate having to get stretchered off. The last thing, obviously, you would want to do at a club is have this big money transfer, and they just blow out a knee during the Euros or something like that. So I think it's a lot of caution is taken into account as far as making moves. Obviously, you need to do physicals on these players, and while they can be done, you can obviously go to Germany or go to the USA and have these physicals done. It's also interrupting the time that they have with their national squad. So then, I'm in total agreement with you guys as far as being a tale two halves, just because of that nature. You don't want to. These are millions of dollars that would be exchanging hands between clubs, and for at least any of the high profile moves, I think you're gonna have to wait a while to see them shake out. But once they do happen, once that first domino starts to kind of fall, I think it'll be a flurry. The Olise news, obviously, he's not involved with national squad. He, I believe, is going to be part of the Olympic squad, but that's still a ways away. So we'll see. But as far as targets, I think you have an interesting, familiar target upcoming right now, Drew, right?
Yeah, Strigo definitely getting the transition down there. In the title, I hope this is what you're talking about. Picking up, we got Ugarte. Definitely a player linked with Liverpool in the past. Uruguayan teammate of Darwin Nunez. He's playing well. He's had his move to PSG. It seems like their release clause or their price that they're looking for is exactly what they paid for Sporting when they bought him. Start with UCT. How do you think we're looking at that CDM role? Endo himself saying that we should probably buy a CDM. So do you think that we are going to look for reinforcement in that role with a potential Bajcetic challenger for coming in? Or do you think we're potentially seeing Ugarte join the team?
Yeah, I think it's a real high likeliness that we will add a defensive CDM. Now it's there's very few destroyer types, so I think a lot of people were hopeful that we would find someone like that, but that doesn't seem to be out there on that market as well. But I think especially the way we're going to set up, with the double pivot, with the 4-2-3-1. I think it's more important we have at least one more defensive midfielder, because you're obviously going to need extra numbers if you play that way. And also, yeah, like Endo said, I think he's a good soldier, and he'll, he would continue be happy this season as a lone CDM. But I think the writing is on the wall. But with Slot, I think he definitely wants to get everyone in pre-season and really meet these players himself, talk to them and things like that. Imagine you're taking over a new company or a business, and you're already tasked with maybe signing replacements for people that you haven't even met yet. So you do want to talk to them. You want to see them in action as well. Like Rigo's great point about Euros as well. That's just something that needs to settle first before he can do that. But in terms of, Ugarte and Edison, potentially competition out in Brazil for Atalanta. I think much of a muchness for me for both of them. I think Ugarte would be more experienced. 50 mil sounds like a pretty reasonable price if we can get him for that. I think it would be pretty solid. It looks like Bruno G is not going to be, moving anywhere, or, at least not for 80, 100 million release clause. And he's a bit overrated for me. So one of these guys for 40 or 50, I think I'll be pretty solid with. And I think, like you said, Drew, with Steph Bajetic, hopefully he hasn't played a lot of football, and I think I was watching one of our streams. Apologies, I forget who said it, but they made a really good point. Like, you can't big up someone that hasn't played football in more than 12 months too much. You want to see them get back first, see how they look. But he's certainly really exciting to have, and hopefully he does really start to show us his potential this season with Endo's experience, and then hopefully with one more signing, and then what to do with Trent. And I think we've got one comment starred from Paul, which is a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, it's certainly for me, I agree with what you're saying. Definitely don't want to rely on Bajcetic, even though he had that amazing, probably 12 weeks only it was, but he definitely took the field by storm and left us all talking about him years later. But for me, that seems like the CDM, the only nailed on position that we probably do need to reinforce. In terms of like piggybacking off what Rigo said about buying someone during a tournament because you don't want them to like blow out their knee, as he said. For me, the other side of it is I wouldn't want to spend big at this moment and then have one of our star players just get injured at the tail end. And then we just spent all our money. As you know, FSG is pretty tight on the purse strings, and then have like a huge hole in the team. But for me, that CDM seems at the moment the only position that I would say is a nailed on guarantee that we would buy someone. Colin, do you agree with that, or do you see any other position as a nailed on buy? And do you think what do you think of Ugarte and how he could fit into the team?
Yeah, the two absolutely nailed on buys for me are CDM and a center back who, again, preferably is left footed, or someone who has played quite a bit of left back, or played left back as well. That kind of flexibility is, I think, really something that they are looking for. So I would say that those two are definitely. I think the third one, I think, is another attacker. And frankly, if we were to leave the summer with one of each, and that's it, and then the according loans and outgoings for the guys, I think I'd be pretty happy with that. I'd be much happier with that than going into the season if we go in with just, let's say, if we do go in with just let's say just the center back. I wouldn't feel ideal about that. I wouldn't feel like that is us really pushing to get to the next level. I would feel like that's kind of only replacing what you absolutely had to make sure that the squad isn't in really dangerous potential injury predicament. I've seen a lot of people, I think, in terms of Ugarte, I've seen a lot of people in our chat say, like he can't pass the ball and he can't. I just think that for a young player, that's probably writing him off too early. Now, that also doesn't mean that you definitely should be spending, that kind of money on someone if you're not absolutely assured that they can't pass it, do the passing bits that you would want them to. But I think for what we would expect of this, central defensive midfielder, I think that he can definitely do the job. And I think that he can definitely be welcomed into a really good position in the team, given his connections with, I think there still is a really strong South American core of the team. Those guys seem to have a very good bond, even though they are not all from the same nation. Those guys seem to be, continue to be really close. And anytime that someone is added, they're, welcoming them with open arms as well. So I would expect, absolutely the same from that. And I think it's definitely something that he can make that position his. It's kind of, in terms of the Endo comments, like it's kind of, that position is kind of begging for someone to make it their own. And Endo, I understand that his comments sort of mean that the competition is good and he accepts and likes that kind of competition for a position like that. To me, I think it also means that he kind of understands that he is, he's very content with the fact that he's on the back end of, certainly the back half of his career. And that he probably feels like he can't do all of the things that he could do at 25, just physically. I think that that one for me is the need.
Yeah, we've seen our midfielders run into the ground before, so definitely don't want to see that happening with a player like Endo, who we can't afford to run him into the ground next season. And for me, I feel the same with you, Colin, that the center back and CDM are absolute musts. I'd be very I defend FSG for the most part. I'm not completely FSG out. I can call them out when they do a terrible job, like not reinforcing the team. When Klopp was there, that's a huge negative in their column for me. And if they only brought in one player this summer, I would be furious and questioning Slot's role at the club if he's not backing up a center defensive midfielder and center back at least. But Rigo, I'm going to pull up a comment from Raz. Where do you think? Which positions do you think is an absolute must to improve, and where do you think Fabio Carvalho's future lies? Is it with Liverpool? Is it elsewhere? How do you feel these loan players coming back into the club will fare next season?
So, all right, two-part question there. So, most important position, I think we do need someone to step into that CDM role, and we need someone to step into that left back / LCB role. So now, will that be any one of our young guys? Will that be Owen Beck? Will that be Chambers as far as left back / LCB? Will it be Stefan Bastecic or Tyler Morton, who had a pretty good year down in the championship as well? So I think, and this is why I threw it in the comments as well, I think if we sign one and at most two players, I'd be surprised if we sign more than two players this offseason. And the reason being is Edwards as well as Hughes are back in the fold. They've been here for months, but obviously they want to assess, and in part of assessing what they have on hand, they want to see how the coach sees the players that they currently have and what does he envision for them. Are they useful to him before going out and spending to acquire players? So I think with the hiccup of having the Euros as well as Copa America ongoing now during the summer, preseason is going to be stop and start. You're going to be getting players, as they become available. The good thing is a lot of these young players aren't playing, obviously, for their national squads. So he'll be able to get a look at them a little bit early on, but envisioning how they fit with the senior squad, I think that'll take a little bit more work. And biggest one to that would be Fabio Carvalho. Now, Fabio, obviously, his first season with Liverpool had some very nice bright moments. Obviously, he scored the winner against Newcastle, but then seemed to just kind of fade into the back, into oblivion, basically, as far as being utilized by Klopp. It was a very, very hard season overall. We ended up in 5th place for a myriad of reasons. Mainly, of course, our midfield just absolutely just self-combusted after overuse. But as far as him fitting in slot system, he does utilize 10s. I think Fabio's creativity in the middle of the pitch is very useful, along with, obviously, Harvey Elliott. Concerning to me is how he did over at RB Leipzig once they brought in Xavi Simons to compete for that kind of right-sided role. It seemed as if Fabio, and by all accounts, the interviews given there was that he wasn't really up for the fight for his minutes, and just kind of ceded the position and had his loan terminated early, and did end up moving over to Hull and had a good end of the year. So will he fit in? I think there's talent there. I think it's a fresh start for him as far as the coaching staff. I think he definitely needs to be on his P's and Q's, pay attention to the detail, and put forth maximum effort, because, again, some of the senior players are still around. I'm not sure what their impression is of him. He seems like a good guy. He has very big aspirations for himself. He wants to win a Ballon d'Or, but that doesn't happen unless you are playing regularly for a top squad. So it's all in his hands. I hope he does well, because that means my club has the absolute player on their hands. And if not, my club is going to recoup a bunch of money from that player's sale. So I would like to see him, and hopefully I get a good, nice live look. I will be in Philadelphia for Arsenal versus Liverpool coming up in July. So I hope all these players come back so I can see them live for the first time. But yeah, it's just exciting times. But again, I don't think we're making that many moves this summer. 1 player or 2, I think, is the maximum. Just being pragmatic and realistic here.
Yeah, as much as I hope you're wrong, Rigo, I do think you're probably right, especially with what you're saying with the Euros and Copa. There's not going to be that much in terms of like a transition season or off season where you'd want to bring players in, assess players, and move players on. This is absolutely the worst summer to be doing that, for Slot to be assessing his the players at his disposal, because he's not going to have them on the training ground to see and to pick through. But CT, how do you think that? Where do you stand on the transfer saga for this summer? Do you think we are bringing in any players, or do you think we are bringing in any players? If so, where? And do you think any of our loan players or academy players are going to step up instead?
Yeah, I'm a little bit more on the confident side that we're definitely going to bring in at least 2, and I'll explain why. Because I think it's led by more Edwards and Hughes. I think by all reports that Slot's someone who would be very content, and he sounds very content with the current team. He's worked with lesser budgets and a lesser talented squad with Feyenoord. So I think he took this job because he knew what Liverpool's current team is like, and the future was uncertain. But in terms of Edwards and Hughes, I think whenever you're new in leadership, and especially in sort of coming in and putting their imprint on this team. They want to come in and kind of establish themselves. If they just ran it all back, it'd kind of be the same and as what we had, I guess, and less room for improvement. And I think the ego in people, especially with these guys coming in and taking the role, I think they will identify maybe 2-3 players that could take this squad further. But also I think there's going to be some sales as well. If those sales don't go through, then there's going to be a serious deviation from what I think. With terms of those sales, I think it could be relating to maybe a player like Curtis Jones, maybe a player like Lucho, higher profile player that might surprise some people. But in terms of the CDM, the left back, maybe Owen Beck goes on loan again. Maybe Bobby Clark and McConnell find new homes. But all of this is going to come after, I think, Slot has taken a good look at them and seen them in action, or at least had some words to them or their representation as well. So, yeah, I'm a little bit more confident that we are going to get 2 guys in. I think what's happening right now with why it's sort of seems like it's going slow, I think all the groundwork's being done. So I think after the Euros, they'll be able to just move fast on it. All the groundwork's been sort of done and talking about identifying who they want. I think the money is there. Like, I think it's not going to be an extravagant amount, but I think with maybe the 2 guys that they really want, when they're ready to do it, I think they'll come with the bid, and then we'll hear that as well. But I'm being a little bit more optimistic about it. I don't expect major changes, but I know we're going to hit on maybe some contract talk. Maybe that's the most concern. Like, what's your level of concern level, guys, like in terms of Trent, Verge, and forgive me, Salah, the third major contract? When are we going to find out that those guys have signed a deal?
I'm getting really worried that I was very right when I said 2 of the 3 deals are going to get done, and I'm starting to really worry that the one deal that doesn't get done is the only deal that I actually really care about. You're pointing to it, Rigo. I'm getting concerned for not really any particular reason. Like, there's no good reason that I should be getting more concerned during the Euros than we've litigated already, like why business doesn't get done when players are away. It just, the longer it goes on and the more time he spends with Jude Bellingham, and Jude Bellingham starts to just talk about how nice the sun is in Madrid and how much money they pay. I just I'm getting really concerned. Yeah.
All right. Let me temper down your concern. What did we just bring up as far as the reason why these deals aren't taking place right now?
Right. Yeah, it's because there's no opportunity to physically do the business. Nobody's taking the contract in and out of the England camp to have them be done.
And what's one reason why Slot and company might wait on making deals or assessing players? They can't actually see them in person yet, right? They're not.
Right.
So as far as signing a deal, if these players haven't met their manager yet, their coach, I should say, their coach, not a manager, their coach. If they haven't had an opportunity to actually meet this guy yet, why would they put pen to paper on any sort of extension, anything of that nature? They wouldn't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So no reason to be concerned. Wait for these tournaments to finish. I think even if we go into the season without any announcements, these type of early season type, mid-September, and you have the photograph of him signing an extension on this deal, I think is quite realistic. The only concern, Colin, is just one team that we should be concerned about, right?
They're the only team that I like honestly believe are in a category above us. Like I
They're
think they're the only ones in the category above us.
To keep it, Star Stripes and Anfield Knights. They're the Lucy to our Charlie Brown, are they not?
They always are to everyone, not just to ours, but yes, yeah.
Well, I mean, we've gotten the Shiv to the side a little bit more than
especially
other
lately.
clubs.
Yeah.
So, there's one club obviously quite concerning. They just, Mbappe this summer, Endrick, who looks built like an NFL running back. If you take a look at Endrick's legs, my lord, you could probably bench lift the car, just using his leg strength alone. But I think we can't be concerned about that just yet. If it's September, late September, nothing's done, then by all means, let's have it's on a Tuesday night, 9 p.m. We can, obviously kids are hopefully in bed. We could open up a couple of beers and kind of commiserate in our misery of not seeing them sign a deal. But I think for now, Colin, you can safely enjoy summer and see how the rest of the transfer window shakes out.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Colin, now I'm a little worried as you are though. With Bellingham whispering in his ear, he's probably like, you won't get that with the Spanish media, the English criticism, you in midfield, especially with was it Carvajal getting to, like, that seems to be the position where they would reinforce.
Do you think in terms
stars
of
are aligning? Yeah.
In terms of negotiating, guys, do you think it's going to come down to more Trent's going to be more interested in the numbers or the role? Like, for him to sign, just like England can't figure out, like, what's the plan for him? Or do you think that's just going to be pretty straightforward?
I think it's going to be more the role and the future of the club. Like, to Rigo's point about meeting the coach, Arne Slot, Trent comes back and, he's balls in his court in terms of contract. He doesn't need to sign it right away. He can see how these, next 6 months go. And then he can, open the floor to potentially signing a pre-contract with a foreign club. So I think if it turns out to where this transition could be more difficult than anyone anticipated, that he could say, I've done everything I could for Liverpool, and he wants to continue his journey. That is complete negative thinking, though, which I don't believe in. So, but that would be the argument for seeing him leave. But
don't you think he wants to be captain of Liverpool though? Like, would he leave, or would he leave for that opportunity, or do you see him wanting to be a Gerrard, being the captain and leading us to greatness?
I think giving him the vice captaincy last year is quite possibly the single most important contract decision signing that Klopp could have done in his last 18 months, 2 years, legitimately. Because if you don't give that to him, then maybe he does start to wonder if there is ever that path for him. And you give him the vice captaincy, and now it's like, hey man, Virgil's not going to be here forever. He's turning 30 next month. Like he's
33.
Not 33. He's not going to be here forever. Like, it's the pathway for him is clear to be the captain of this team, and it's not long. I don't foresee him ever being the captain of Real Madrid.
I just want Steven Gerrard to come to his front door, and just if there's any rumors that start getting intense, and just sit him down. That's where I feel like Gerrard comes back into the fold, to just sit down and have a chat. But we'll start wrapping up soon. It is over an hour, but we'll get to some quick fire questions. Before we do, please throw in any comments or questions you have, because this is where we'll start getting them in quick and have everyone here answering them. And really, again, can't state it enough. We all appreciate everyone who comes and joins these streams each week. Everybody who watches them, everyone who comments. If you want, please like, share, subscribe. Steven always gets on me for not saying that enough, but as far as I'm concerned, as long as you're watching and enjoying the content, we're gonna be here every week, and really appreciate everyone who participates. And for the quick fire questions, CT, you've been asking a few quick fire questions to us, so I want to pass one back to you. Let's see. I'll bring this one up. There seems to be a lot of meat on this bone. Calafiori at 23 million. We don't know if that's the absolute price, but how do you view him as a potential signing for Liverpool?
Look, it ticks all the boxes for me. Young, upside, looks like he can help right away. Obviously, there's, if you're on the more glass half empty side, then you want to see a longer sample. But obviously, if you look at the price, if you wait a little longer, then that's just going to go up. So, you're just in the famous words of Eminem, when you have your moment, you got to take it. And sometimes, you don't stutter. You just gotta go for it. A little surprised that the fee might be that low. I certainly don't believe it. I'll have to see it to believe it. But in terms of a ball playing centre back, had the game winning assist as well, Matip-esque. Like you guys all saw it. Yeah, he's got the right profile for sure, man. And him and Kwanzaa for another pairing, a decade, with Kanate and Verge for a few more seasons. I'm pretty high on him, but I do want to see more. But obviously, you can't deny the fee. Like if it is under 30, I think it would be money well spent.
Rigo, you were talking about him before the stream, so passing it to you next.
CT, when you brought up Eminem and Calafiori being Italian, I definitely thought you were going to go with mom's spaghetti. So I thought I was going to segue right into there. Calafiori, wow, looks absolutely quite a player over at center back. Has shown absolute nimbleness and game intelligence and the ability to pass dribble out of that position. You saw him in midfield at times. Jay Muse commented there that he looks like he even played DM and has done so in the past. Passes the Liverpool handsome check as well. Obviously able to join the squad. We've been getting a lot of Anthony Gordon shouts in the group chat, and please don't bring that hobgoblin over to the squad. Come on. We can't lower the quality over here at LFC. So Calafiori, obviously, his girl is gorgeous also. I'm not sure if you took a good look at that. But he just looks like an absolute baller. The only concern there, obviously, is Juventus is supposedly looking to bring him on. They did already poach Bologna's manager, Thiago Motta, who had an absolutely spectacular season, leading Bologna to a Champions League spot, and has generated countless tacticos videos on YouTube that all of you can feel free to go ahead and check out. But Calafiori, yeah, I'd be over the moon if we signed him. Combo of a left back / CB, multi-positional, can fill quite a few roles, and young enough to improve and obviously be molded into whatever play style or game style that Arne Slot wants to implement. So 2 big thumbs up for me. Mamma mia.
Well, definitely an exciting player. Rigo, agree with everything you said, and hopefully I'll get my needle back on the positive side. I was reading all about them not being happy with Juventus's approach of the player, not wanting to deal with Juventus. I think Philip Bidwell, who raised the original comment, mentioned that he had already played outside of Italy. That would be my question to you, Colin. It does seem like potentially stars could align with the interest in Sepp Vandenberg going the other way as well. not wanting to do dealings with Juventus, Premier League clubs interested. Do you think there's actually a realistic chance of us getting him, or is this a case where, Italian players don't like to go to the Premier League?
There's no denying that. Like they don't like to come there. And again, frankly, like if I lived in Bologna, like would I want to go live in Liverpool? Probably. I'm just talking about like in terms of like a place to spend time outside in. Probably not. Like probably not. What you can offer him is large wages in comparison to what he's been on. You can offer him a direct path to being the starter at left center back with, within, I think, probably 2 to 3 years time. And really like giving him the keys to the car. Like, hey man, it's yours. There you go. Rigo, you did miss the one most important factor that he, of a box that he checks, which is the vibe check, which he checks it like 5 times. The hair, the headband, left-footed, Italian, like check it as many times as possible. He passes the vibe check. I would give Sepp Vandenberg and £50 million to get him. Like, sure, if we're quoting Sepp Vandenberg at £20 million, or that's what we said, what we would want from him. And if Bologna are seriously going to entertain 23, 24, I'll give them that and Sepp Vandenberg.
That's a lot of cheesy bread there, man.
Sold. I'm not worried.
Rigo, I think if he comes, we need to start calling him the mom spaghetti and get that as a potential song for him on the Cop. But we'll wrap this up with one final question, one that I would not have answered any other way differently, except for the last couple weeks. It makes me proud to be an American, not something I say much, but this question from Jamie is... CT, I'll give you the outsider's perspective on first dibs on this question.
Wow, it's like, who can outdo the other one? Maybe both put together wouldn't even be a complete manager.
Greg Southgate.
I gotta, in terms of talent, I gotta go Southgate. In terms of, it's just criminal that he's, like England. Forget about results, because football, anyone can beat anyone. But he's just not playing the style of football and giving the best players the chance to play exciting, attractive football. In England, the Premier League, as a Liverpool fan, we've been done harshly with the Liverpool players as well. And I felt like some more guys could have got in, but the guys that they've currently got, it's just they're playing so restrictive. And look, I've got an uncle that's a big Spurs fan, and he's Australian obviously as well. When Ange took over, he was sort of like feeling bittersweet about Harry Kane leaving, but Harry Kane couldn't play the style of football that Ange wanted to play because he doesn't press. He's slower. And obviously they need to attack really quickly. And so they were, from what I hear, not that upset with Harry Kane leaving, but no doubt his abilities and his talent. But in terms of the way they all play together, it's just really, really underwhelming.
It has to be the most boring matches I've seen at the Euros so far. But Rigo and Colin, do you back Gareth Southgate, or do you back Berhalter?
Colin, you can go first because your name is first in the alphabet.
Okay. I have so many thoughts about this. I'm going to try to keep them brief. I want to make no mistake. They're both bad. They're both bad. Like they're not good. I was making a Star Wars reference that they're like the terrible side of a Force dyad. Like they were created in the same mold of absolute horrendousness. Like they're both terrible. Gareth Southgate is better. Greg Berhalter has won nothing in his coaching career. Like he's done nothing. His brother was involved in the hiring of the manager, and in which then he was fired and then rehired. Like he has done nothing. He is a nepotism hire at its absolute worst. Like, yeah, Southgate's not great. Like he's just boring. He's just like boring and gray and like bland. And Berhalter's like just actively bad. So that's really the difference, I think, is that one just is meh, and one is like, no, he's terrible.
I mean, I know I agree with everything you say in terms of he's a terrible coach. Both of them are terrible coaches, in my opinion. But Berhalter did win the Gold Cup and Nations League with us. Not saying that's huge trophies or his.
What has Southgate won though?
But I mean, you're right. But I meant like really in order to get the job, like in terms of like when you would sit down with
earn it.
Yeah, when you would sit down with candidates and be like, what can you show me on your resume to convince me as to why you should be the men's national team manager? And he's like, I coached Columbus Crew for a little while. And they're like, wow, congrats, man, you got it. Like, that's it. That's all he's ever done. And frankly, that's all he's ever going to do. Like, he can win another Gold Cup all he wants, like in front of half full stadiums, you know, across the United States. Like, he's never going to do anything better.
I think for me, it's in the similar regards of like if the U.S. has won, it's not because of him. Similar where I think if England wins, it's not because of Southgate. But I'd still say Southgate is worse just because of the pool of talent he has to work with. It's almost like for me, it's like he's a magnet with the team, repelling them in the opposite direction. Like he's definitely brought them together. I've heard all England fans support that first World Cup run ending against Croatia that brought the belief back to the nation, and credit that. And maybe he deserves to be on the coaching staff, similar to he was in that in that setup before. But as head coach with the talent pool that he has, I think CT was saying it earlier on the stream, like how you mess this up is unforgivable. But Rigo, it seems we're split right now. Where are you? Where are you falling on the deciding factor?
Not a split. I put it in the comments here. Gareth Southgate has, with the player he has at his disposal, could very easily copy paste tactics from Jurgen Klopp, from Pep Guardiola, from champion winning managers, based on the talent that he has at his disposal. You can't say the same for Greg Berhalter. Do I like watching either of their teams play? Not at all. But the talent disparity is quite evident. You have the presumed Ballon d'Or winner in Jude Bellingham looking just absolutely done. Harry Kane, leading scorer in the Bundesliga, having to drop back all the way to midfield to go and get the ball. Like this team should be creating chances and opportunities left, right, and center. The team's best passer, most creative passer from any position on the pitch in Trent Alexander-Arnold has been thoroughly misused and allowed to be made the scapegoat, to the point that even American announcers are saying, oh, the experiment of Trent. It's not an experiment. The only experiment here is having a guy so untalented lead such a talented group of players. Like these guys walk into the locker room knowing like this guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So like you could just see the dispirited and disinterested nature of the squad. They're overly reliant on individual moments of brilliance. There's no real cohesion. You're playing Kieran Trippier, who had an absolute horrendous 2-month stretch in the Premier League to the point that he was benched by Newcastle, starting at left back for you. You have Kyle Walker starting at right back, who couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a pass. You know, yeah, I'm sorry. Gareth Southgate takes it. They made it to the Euro final last time by sheer luck, nothing to do with him, unfortunately. And I don't see them going very far in this tournament here. Greg Boharter, I don't like the guy at all. I think he, as Colin said, he earned this job by nepotism. I think he conducted himself horrifically. As well with the Hoji Arena episode, I think he should have been binned. But that's just the whole USA soccer infrastructure just needs an absolute redoing from top to bottom. They're only interested in money and extracting as much as they can from their fan base. So, yeah, that's where I stand on it. Unfortunately, bring on Arne Slot. La 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 la. That's all I gotta say.
No, we will quickly transition back to Liverpool because England and US are definitely not voting that much optimism, especially when I look at Copa America tickets prices here. It's outrageous. But we'll wrap up on the positive of Rigo. Arne Slot here to come. We're going to get to see him here in America first. Hopefully, well, I guess there'll be those little preseason friendlies before coming over to the United States. But I'm definitely excited to try and catch a game this summer. Rigo's going to catch a game. I believe Colin is as well. CT, hope is at the very least a good time for you to watch. But again, thank you everyone who joined the stream tonight. We really appreciate everyone who watches, everyone who comments. If you do enjoy this content, please like, share, subscribe. LFC Transfer Window puts out videos every single day, streams every day, and we'll be here I'll say every Tuesday, but last week we were not, but it was not our fault. It was Steven's fault. Please give him grief if you do see him on a stream, but keeping it positive. Thank you all for joining us again, and you'll never walk alone. Have a great week. We'll see where we're at next week. Hopefully lots to talk